Good morning, good afternoon, or whatever time it is. My name is Jordan, and I'd like to welcome you to my Sleepless podcast. Now, these days there's been quite a bit of discussion concerning health, and one of the most important elements of good overall health is sleep. Now, personally, I love sleeping. You can ask any one of my family members. And concerning school, sleep is important. It's related to good grades and overall better attitudes. And for this discussion, I'm proposing that school starts later in the day for other reasons too. So, as a athlete, personally, schools can starting later can provide better performance for athletes and even more time for homework than you would not have if school started 7:45 in the morning. Getting a good night's rest is important for everyone's health, but it's especially important for children and teenagers. That's why I believe that school should start later, because it's studied and proven that getting more sleep helps improve behavior and grades and other things. You may have already heard people discussing this topic. Many specialists are saying that even school times and school schedules for teens should be changed. Sleep experts claim that teens have different sleep rhythms and different sleep needs, and should therefore have different study schedules than the traditional adult workday. This can result in many different ways. You even just simply shifting the school day by a couple hours could help and fix the rhythmic sleeping. And on screen now for a couple minutes I will have how much sleep do kids and teens need, and it's just a little picture that shows about the age range and how much sleep they'll need. Many psychologists say that teen depression, irritability, and inability to focus may all be symptoms of unrecuperated sleep schedule, which could be anything where as teens don't start feeling tired until later at night and need more sleep than the common adult. So today I'd like to share with you some information I've learned about sleep and to help shed some more light on the subject. Children and teens require more sleep naturally. Sleep is vital to your well-being, and it can even help you eat better and manage the stress of being a teen. This is from the sleepfoundation.org, and these next couple of quotes are from there too. But personally, sleeping is how I deal with stress most of the time, and it's how I can manage everything that's going on in my life. Biologically, sleep patterns shift towards later times for both sleeping and waking during adolescence. It's natural for teens to need about 8 to 10 hours of sleep each night to function best. Many teens suffer from sleep disorders such as narcolepsy, insomnia, restless leg syndrome, and sleep apnea. This is why your teens are falling asleep in class, because they don't get enough sleep at night during their natural resting hours. And that's what makes them fall asleep in class, on top of being sick, which lack of sleep can also cause you to be sick. there's a lot of things that kind of all connect together. From sleep.org, it's harder for teens to fall asleep at an early hour, also to wake up at an early hour. The unfortunate truth is that teens need more slumber than they are getting. They recommend the amount of sleep for those ages 14 to 17 is 8 to 10 hours of sleep, reiterating that we need more sleep than most adults per night, but most rack up to just about 7.5 hours per night. That's 2.5 hours less than what us as teens need in order to function correctly. From childmind.org, behaviors we casually dismiss as teenage angst, moodiness, battles, recklessness, impulsive, and carelessness behavior is not in fact a normal part of being a teen. Rather, those are symptoms of chronic and severe sleep deprivation. Meaning, with the normal schedule of things, we are not getting the amount of sleep that we need. From the pros and cons of later school start times by Lay and Moore, which is a PDF file. So this is actually from a book. As children move into adolescence, their sleep cycles change. Adolescents naturally stay up later and get up later because of how their bodies release melatonin, a hormone that regulates sleep. And that it is clear that sleep deprivation has a significant effect on academic performance. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine says that the lack of sleep impacts performance by reducing concentration and creating attention defects. So that child that you say is just not paying attention, just not listening, they're being rude and disruptive, it could be from a lack of sleep. And these next two pictures that I have popping up are from another PDF from the American Psychology Association. This is partially from where I did my research. And even look at it, it has a picture of a teenage child sleeping at a desk. It's perfect. So, from that alone, should start the conversation rolling with more adults. My next point is that sleep and performance in school is directly related. Following the later start times, the students were also more alert and engaged in class. Absences and tardiness and final grades increased by 4.5% from neattoday.org or niatoday.org. So even in studies that they've done on starting the school days later have shown improvements in grades, improvements in attendance. It'll decrease student-involved car accidents because they're more awake and able to focus on the road and driving. It will increase student GPA. All these things that it increased for that study and other studies that we are noticing a lack of in our own school community. It can increase in assessment scores, which is good for teachers. It will increase in even college admission test scores. It increases student attention, decrease in students sleeping during instruction, and it increases the student-family interaction, which is all beneficial things that everybody looks for. Those were from the APA.org Families Resources and School Start Times PDF. More from NEAtoday.org. Starting school later also helps students combat symptoms of chronic sleep deprivation such as fatigue, depression, and memory and cognitive impairment. And sleep-deprived teens struggle to learn and have greater risk for depression, anxiety, suicide, sports injuries, and car accidents, which reiterates the car accident thing that I was bringing up earlier. We all talk about how we want our teens to drive safe and to pay attention to the road, but when you're tired, it's hard to pay attention to anything. How do we expect them to pay attention to the road when they're tired, but don't give them the same amount of attention for needing sleep whenever they're in class? And yell at them when they do sleep in class because they don't get enough sleep at night. A straight A student who does athletics and other things and carrying a job and doing the homework will have a harder time of getting their sleep, their 8 to 10 hours of sleep, if they're spending 7:45 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night doing schoolwork, athletics, and other things, not even including a job. It is hard to get a job when you're a full-time student and you need to get rest. It is hard to carry a job, do school, and athletics. And a lot of people stop doing athletics or a lot of students stop doing athletics for jobs because they need that financial support system in order to do college. Just from a personal statement from my own experiences. And my final point is just the cons. All these benefits of later starts doesn't mean that there's no cons, that is for sure. Some issues that need attention, obviously, are athletic schedules could result in missing part of the end of the class day, which some athletics already do that. If you sit in a class towards the end of the day and you listen to the overcoms, it's just after lunch and basketball's being called out. It's just after lunch and football's being called out. Every semester of the year, there's a sport going on. There is a sports team being called out, and that's what they regular schedule. So at that point, it's just a matter of which is more important. These classes that they're obviously going to have to pass anyways in order to play, or the student's mental state. Because of rearranged bus schedule, your younger children may have to take an earlier bus to school when it may still be dark. These are bullet points from kappnonline.org. Later start time for teens. So they did bring up the fact that younger children will still have to go to school earlier, and they may have to take an earlier bus. Arranged childcare for younger children before and after school may be difficult because a lot of parents use their older children to watch the kids in between school hours, which would definitely put a kink in the system. Parents' work schedules may not easily align with the new start times. The later start may coincide with local rush hours for traffic, creating the need to discuss with the local traffic safety online officials how traffic flow can be improved. There will also be some worries about materialize about matters within the districts. Later smart start time may result in less participation in sports and fewer games won. Which, I mean, versus safety, health, and mental and physical health versus a game that would probably be moved to the beginning of the day when students are more to make students more alert during the school day. We'll just have to, that'll be another discussion, because everything is just going to be so combated and everybody's going to have their own opinion on things. There's nothing much you can do about that one. Because they get up later in the morning, teens may choose to stay up later at night, which stereotypically, even according to this thing, 18 to 19-year-olds who wake up at 6:45 in the morning need to go to bed at 10:45 p.m., which is still later, 9:45 for 14 to 17. And quite honestly, if I could sleep until 10 or until later in the day, I would, even going to bed at 10. These are just things that the school districts that are considering changing the start of times of high school must discuss on their own. Administrators and teachers need to discuss how the sleep needs of students intersect with school activities such as timing of homework assignments. These are just things that each of the administration staff and teachers and parents are all going to have to decide together. So there's no doubt that sleep is essential to our health and our emotional well-being, and our ability to succeed and do our best. With all of the emotional and physical life stresses involved in being a teenager, sleep is even more important. The pressures of school and the stress of preparing for higher education can absolutely be helped when faced with a well-rested mind and body. If the teenage sleep cycle is difficult or is different than sleep cycles of adults, and if teens require more sleep than adults, I think it would be very beneficial to change school schedules to later times. I believe the pros definitely outweigh the cons here. Better sleep won't just contribute to better grades. It may be far more important than that. Better sleep may be the answer to lessening harmful problems concerning focus and emotional well-being. It can also help teens cope better, and not only in their studies, but also in their emotional lives and behaviors. We all know that a good sleep does the body good. Teens need more sleep, and they need this sleep to cope with the stress placed on us. Us as teenagers have a lot of stress to be perfect and get good grades and everything. You may agree or disagree, but I hope I shared some insight with you today. If you are a student or a parent of a teen student, I hope you continue this conversation with your peers and your school districts and administratives. And that's all we have time for today. I hope you guys have slept well, and this is Jordan logging off of her Sleepless podcast.